Another best of 5 finals with this guy. In the bottom left of Amphion, it is MaxPax. In the top left, we do have soO. So MaxPax did win Europe 3-0 versus Lambo, so that was also a PvZ, so he's pretty warmed up for that. But Lambo and soO will generally play differently. I actually don't think it's that extreme of a difference. Lambo has been just as likely to go for a mid-game attack as soO apparently is. Because soO actually didn't do it last series, did he? Yeah, I think they can actually play very similarly. People would argue that soO is better based on past results and what people consider a stronger region, that is Korea versus Europe. Debate all you want about that, but there is that. I think it's certainly a different enough player that MaxPax would have to readjust to a certain extent. I mean, just the fact that they are on Amphion as the first map is already a difference. That might not have occurred with Lambo. Maybe Lambo vetoed this one. Or it was a Game 4 or Game 5 I didn't get to see, but still. But MaxPax generally has a lot of practice versus Korean Zergs. I mean, no one is really a surprise to anyone now in StarCraft. It is more about that intimate details kind of thing that you would only get from facing the same guy over and over and over and over and over again, like on ladder or as a practice partner that's generally going to be from your region because you probably speak the same language. So soO would probably know still more intimate details about like Byun's playstyle compared to MaxPax's, but they actually face each other, MaxPax and soO. They do both participate in the North American Open Cup. Let's actually get a quick check on that. Oh no, I was totally wrong. This is actually soO. Wow, okay. So they did play recently, but it was absolutely not an Open Cup. It was a Kung Fu Cup. But they've actually only played twice. It is 1-1. Wow, okay. MaxPax plays a lot against Byun. I know that much. But this time around, it being soO, that is very rare. All right, yeah. My point kind of still stands as far as this whole, like, well, is the difference of regions really going to be big? I don't think so. MaxPax is familiar with Korean Zergs, and I'm sure he's familiar with soO's playstyle, even if he's actually barely ever faced them. And then MaxPax is just generally so hot right now. Everyone's talking about him. So a little bit of that star power, I suppose. And even though soO did win 2-1, and they were pretty exciting games as well versus Trap, yeah, I just felt like it was cleaner from the Protoss. Kind of felt like soO was on his heels, kind of just pushing his arms around different places and hoping that it hit someone. So then the games did get chaotic, and that's not necessarily soO's fault, so yeah. I am biased towards the MaxPax today. soO surprised me once. See if he does it again. Speed on the way. No big shakes here for the Zerg side of things. Ditto on the side of the Protoss. Just an Oracle being chronoed out as a third base is being gotten. It's obviously intended to go into this triangle third that is blocked by minerals. We'll see. I mean, we're around, we're actually past a month of these new ladder maps being on the ladder, so they've really had most of the stuff figured out. Because some of them are so interesting, though, I think we're taking longer to really say this is generally what people do. This is 80% of the strategies is how they take this expansion, or how they do this attack, or where they proxy their bases. We might still be kind of figuring that out here on Amphion. MaxPax, clearly a fan of the triangle. You then could mine out your opponent's rocks, minerals, and try and engage via the entire left side of the map. Not sure that's really MaxPax's plan. He's got 2 oracles flying different directions, trying to get some scouting as well as maybe 1 or 2 drones. Literally just the 1 so far. And there is the first sign of technology from MaxPax, White Council, and Forge coming down. Adept's going to try and get to the natural. They actually will let that shade finish. They are close enough to focus fire the drones, and that seemed to be enough for the Pax. Alongside an Oracle dipping in for, I think, 1 or 2 more drones. That is 5 killed for the trade of those 2 Adepts. Total of 8 drones killed, with 3 Oracles still alive. So we'll see a couple more drone kills, probably, before things finally level off. Su's had worse games. He is getting a lair right now. No Evolution Chamber +1 melee, no Rocheworn for safety at the very least. Just straight into that lair. If he's going to try and go into a Spire again, I think he's going to be very disappointed. MaxPax doing a very similar thing to what Trap was doing. I've already forgotten the intricacies of Trap's builds in all 3 games, but he did go Twilight Council every time. Or Stargate into Twilight Council and Blink, sorry. 9 drones killed, by the way, so this is far more important than that. 17 drones in total. Okay, now this is about the worst that soO has done today. Did he end up winning that one? No, that was the one that he lost, right? That is a lot of drones to have killed. But anyways, back to the Protoss, Blinkstalker, and +1, and the potential of going through these rocks. We could have some very heavy Blinkstalker pressure, and if soO was going to try and greed his way up to Spire off of nothing, I mean, that would have been insane. He's not doing that. Rocheworn is coming down. +1 has started up. 4th base on the way to the very far right, scouted by the Oracle. But soO does still not know what his opponent's doing exactly. Better idea now. Absolutely a better idea as of right now. Stalkers revealed themselves. It's got to be Blink on the way from a Twilight Council, even though we didn't actually scout that. And that is obviously going to be +1. Now he doesn't know about the gateway, and that is getting increasingly concerning. You know? So you know about the potential Blink Stalkers on the map. That's great. Do you know that they're about to hit your natural? Yeah, because I said that you could mine out these minerals, and obviously you don't have to if you can just blink right across it. A little life hack for you. This is a one-punch maneuver. You get one chance to do this. Because as soon as they're up on the game, then using your blink to get across a field and not having a defensive blink is a sacrifice. Seems pretty worthwhile, though. soO does not have a very large army, and now he's supply blocked. Yeah, that might be game. Again, I mean, I think this is actually so freaking similar to Game 1 of Trap versus soO. Actually, so similar. Yeah, there's the trickiness of the minerals, but I don't, if he had done it here, I think he would have won too. soO just had so much damage done to his drone line. He spent a lot of his money replacing the drones. By the time he gets to an army, he's already overwhelmed. Yeah, even a stasis trap providing a force field on the ramp. GG's. MaxPax dominant first game victory. But that's how Trap started the game versus soO, and, well, still went soO's direction. Map number 2 is going to be Crimson Quartz. Bottom left, it is MaxPax. Top right, it is soO. So soO gets bodied in the first game, but he's familiar with that. It's happened versus Trap, and he still bounced back. And a pretty impressive comeback, really, because the second game wasn't smooth sailing for him either, and he just persevered through it all, through all the weird shit that happened that game, and he won, and then had a second very tense game, which he also won, so it's very possible. But on the other hand, if we're looking at history, in recent history, yeah, soO might have come back after a pretty bad first loss. MaxPax literally 3-0'd Lambo today, and it was all pretty one-sided. So, it's like, which narrative do you want to go for here? Depends on who you're a fan of, right? Simple as that. For me, I am pretty scared of MaxPax right now. He is an absolute beast. soO looked a little rockier. I feel like MaxPax hasn't really been pushed tremendously in PvZ as of yet. This map with MaxPax and Lambo was interesting. You had both players go for forward bases, which created a lot of tension in the middle. Lambo ended up doing a more severe all-in, basically. Whereas MaxPax was doing kind of a less committed attack. But because he did have an army and it was very fast blink that game as well, he was able to hold. So, like, that was the closest I think the game's got, right? And MaxPax still ended up being quite ahead by the end of it. Will MaxPax do the same thing? that he did earlier today. That is regular Stargate opener into third Nexus into very fast Twilight Council. We'll basically see as soon as that Stargate pumps out one Oracle, then we're watching for that Twilight Council timing. Although, Warp Gate first, actually. Twilight Council is going to be coming down right now. Big change up here for MaxPax between two... Wait, no. Oh, I got so fucking bamboozled. My goodness. This is like the feeling you get when you open the refrigerator 7 times. And every time you're like, well, maybe this time I'll find something. And you just realize that you're actually a goldfish and your memory is like 5 seconds long. Okay, that was a fake, but that wasn't a very convincing fake. I was convinced. I was excited. I shouldn't have been. Overlord was going to see that it was actually canceled and restarted. So, yeah, there's actually nothing interesting happening. It was so close, though. So close to being something different. Now, the question is still back to the first one, right? Which is, once that Oracle gets created, is it going to be a second Oracle immediately, or is it going to be a Twilight Council? It's kind of the first check mark. And it's the next check mark is actually, like, fast third Oracle, which Hero does sometimes. 2 Adepts will end up surviving the attempts to get into that third base. 1 drone, 1 link killed thus far in a 3.5-minute game. And soO is just trying to drone, but why does his drone number suck so much? Is that normal? Does that happen? Why doesn't this look normal? I mean, we're getting more normal. What happened? You know, it's a tremendous difference. That's what it feels like. Yes, we've had hatch blocks before, and that does affect how quickly the drones get to mining when you rally from different locations. So there's always that little bit of economic loss there. A very consistent 7-worker difference, though. Seems a little... Okay. Twilight Council was gotten, by the way. However, we do have a delay on the upgrade. There we go. Blink starts up in Chrono as well, but you can tell that MaxPax did mess up there. He did have plenty of resources to build, and he could have had that 10 seconds, 5 seconds faster, whatever it is. Or also Habit, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. What's up? So, it actually is so similar to what he did in the first game. Sorry, the first series today versus Lambo. Yeah, he went 1 Oracle in the Twilight Council. So even though his blink was a little delayed, it's still very fast. It's still going to help defend something that could be on the way in the mid-game from the Zerg, for instance, which it absolutely was from Lambo. Again, Lambo took the forward base as well, and that really gives a hint to the Zerg's intentions. They generally are not going to take a forward base unless they themselves are going to play aggressively. So actually took a very, like, normcore... Very, almost defensive 3 hatch. I mean, it's so scary. No, but seriously, he seems to be playing more on the defensive side, at least initially. So, for MaxPax, he's going to be able to provide a little stalker aggression, because Blink is going to be done, and he's at least partially covered by an Oracle. It is only 1 Oracle, so not as many stasis traps, not as much emergency pulsar beam, a little sketch, but he does have Blink, and there's still a couple of maneuvering terrain areas, you know, you can jump up and down over here or over the rocks, maybe. Over the gold minerals, certainly. But no detection, no warp prism, no proxy gate. There's only so much spice here. There's only so much pepper. Proxy pylon is being put down. This is something that soO really needs to be aware of, right? Because this can, of course, look like it's just a little hit squad to clear up creep spread. But it will soon become much, much worse. And if you can nip this in the bud, if you can get on top of this and then surround that pylon, get the kill the probe, I mean, that's a significant delay. Doesn't happen this time around for soO. He had no idea what was over there. Trying to get a 4th base while being under attack from a 6-gate stalker. Dedicated aggression, shall we say. Very low on the gas, very low on the technology. 3 bases, but not a lot of probes. But this does seem to be working. soO's army, once again, just a little bit too late. He didn't lose that many drones this game, but I think it's also attacking faster. So 6 drones, 8 drones. Okay, well, now we got more coming down here. 2 Adepts adding those numbers up. Hey, this just, I mean, maybe he isn't going to win right off the bat, but it does seem like it's doing pretty well, right? So the Queens are very tanky. But they're out of transfuses, and they obviously don't have much DPS. Not even a warp prism to try and target fire. Second Oracle was created. I actually really like that. Stasis Trap available as well. Some stalkers starting to fall. Total of 5 have fallen so far. Roach numbers do seem to be hitting that close to critical mass. We also got some transfuses from the Queens finally once again. Stasis Trap still there. MaxPax going to feel probably as confident as he can be as long as that Stasis Trap is up. Once that's killed, or pops, I think it's time to skedaddle. Because soO, he was on the brink of once again not being prepared fast enough, but saving all of his Queens, having that to buffer so that his Roaches can spill forth to actually build up the Ravager count. It actually looks like it's going to be a last-second hold, despite soO's mechanical difficulties. 1,200 minerals in the bank. I mean, that's just not supposed to happen. He would be smooth sailing if he had all that in Lings. Coming in on the backside for a surround, easy peasy, but he doesn't have it. Another Stasis Trap was built for MaxPax to continue feeling somewhat confident about moving over here. His follow-up, which he did have to decide kind of just based on how this game is going, right? This might not have been pre-planned, but his follow-up is going to be, yes, getting a fast fourth, but then getting double Forge. So, you know, another option would be still holding on close to your vest, 3 bases, that's an easy defense, supposedly, and then going up to Storm or Disruptors or something big and bad, right? Nah, MaxPax doubling down on the Gateway. And, you know, his Stalker retention has been pretty good. He has lost 6-7 more, actually, as I'm speaking, so maybe not the best. But he sees an opportunity. He sees that he's not being dislodged from this location, which still has a lot of safety features to it. Again, evacuation paths, stasis traps, chokes. And he's seeing a thinning Roach count. Now, that is partially because more Ravagers are being built, the crowd control aspect of this, but it's also just because soO cannot spend his money. And he's also going to be supply blocked even if he tried. soO should have already taken this out. He should have already pushed this back and put MaxPax into a very defensive position that would be very scary if soO had spent all of this money. MaxPax retreating back into a budding 4th base and upgrades impacting Stalkers that are on the run. Like, that would not be as impressive. But MaxPax instead is still on the front lines, controlling the pace of the game, controlling the expansion process of the Zerg, so even furthering the larva problem because you don't have a 4th hatchery, right? And he's getting all this room to safely go up to 4 bases, double upgrades, finally add on that charge. soO is going to lose this game because of the macro problems. Now, the severe macro problem might have happened at minute 8.5, and now it's just like, okay, we get it, he's got a macro problem, okay. But it is absolutely what's going to kill him. Sometimes there's games where a larva pops and suddenly all of his bank depletes, and then there's an actually pretty good Zerg army. The Protoss even gets shocked by it. They're like, what the hell did this all come from? That is still not happening here. We still do not have soO busting out 20 larvae to then pump into nothing but army. So he's not even getting that kind of 1 second shock. If you ever watch Squid Game and there's the tug of war, there's that moment where they like all go limp and then they pull. Like, soO doesn't even get that because he cannot spend his money. He's actually going to start spending it on technology because he just doesn't have larva. He's obviously trying to spend it. He doesn't have larva. He's going to get a 4th base all the way to the top left. He had to wait for the minerals to mine out. I think what he's going to learn from this game is to probably preemptively mine out those minerals as soon as you aim to take your 4th. Maybe, even. Like, yeah, that's game. It's going to be 2-0 in MaxPax's favor. soO taps out of the game with 1,600, 500 in the bank, just about. Not a good feeling. So we're on the verge of another clean sweep for the finals. On the top left, up 2-0, he is MaxPax. And on the top right of Ghost River, we do have soO. soO not having the best of ZVPs. His games versus Trap are also pretty desperate. Fought to the last, barely winning out over him. And then goes up against MaxPax, and MaxPax is just a pummeling. And the best thing about it is that he's some, like, 17... Oh, I think he's 18, actually, at this point. He's, like, some 18-year-old kid. It's like soO just played the match of his life versus Mike Tyson, and now he's up against a kid, and he's like, okay, well... this will be easier, right? No, the kid actually has Hercules strength. So Ghost River ends up going into the map pool of this matchup. despite it being very, very short, which is kind of generally been, if it's a short map, it's kind of the odd man out. You know, just the short kind of usually means rush or aggressive. You could argue that rush aggressive type strategies are maybe not as dependable. A little more into that kind of cheese category, rush category. Whatever you want to put it as, I guess. So we see, like, you know, other reasons why Beckett Industries was not played almost at all. But one of them was because of, like, 30-second rush distance. But it's actually kind of fun in PvZ right now that we're getting a lot of the interesting and actually shorter maps here. Because typically that would be kind of a cause for concern for the Protoss side of things, right? Like, oh my god, if that Ling all-in hits 2 seconds faster, can the Protoss actually get the building up, the Zealot in there, whatever they got to do? Well, time has kind of proven that as long as we're above, yeah, basically 30 seconds of rush distance, like, it's probably holdable from Protoss. And then actually is, if we're not talking about extremely early rushes, then it kind of goes over to the Protoss. Again, adept attacks. Scarier in some of the smaller maps. Blink Stalker attacks as well, something that's aggressive early on. And then you add in the map terrain, this little area that seems so difficult for Zerg to break and stop the aggression from continuing on. And it's actually kind of been a fun map pool for PvZ, even though maybe the meta for PvZ isn't the most interesting. Oh, we've seen a lot of Twilight Council games, and I do like Twilight Council games. Another one coming in here, Twilight Council first and foremost. So this might have been when the Warp Gate was actually researched first and foremost, something that the Overlord might have picked up on, but I didn't pay attention. And there's some serious mind games like be going on, right? Like, he kind of did it and then didn't do it in the last game, and you know, soO saw it. MaxPax knows that soO saw that it wasn't actually a Warp Gate first, and they both had a laugh, and it was all good times. They could have done that again here. He could have gone Warp Gate first, cancel, Overlord leaves, put it back on first. Stalker's going to make sure the Overlord doesn't get into the main base. Minimum scouting coming up from MaxPax, right? He's just using that Adept to scout, make sure there's nothing scary on the way. There's not 3-hatch Zerg here, who's definitely picking up on the lack of Stargate if it was not revealed by the Warp Gate timing. MaxPax is putting everything into the 4 Gateway Resident Glaives attack. And soO is tasked to defend. But it, once again, feels like he's not going to be at a very ideal Zerg drone count. You know, 40, and then you got to use 1 or 2 to build a couple of emergency spores. He's at 37, and he's only building Lings. Roach 1 only halfway done. As the attack commences, this is just prior to Resident Glaives. It's just prior to the Warp Prism being out, so it's not really the... It's not even an appetizer so much, it's an amuse-bouche. It's amusing. But it's still something that you want to be concerned about. You know, if soO doesn't have any Lings out, and then the Adepts get to run around, so it also sucks. But seriously, his drone count... A little scary, but that's also, again, talked about this earlier today. Lambo had similar difficulties. Such a difficult process of reading the Protoss here. What are they going to do with the Adepts? How many gateways did they actually get? So how much are they really committing only to the Adepts? Where are they coming in with the Adept Shades and the Warp Prism to boot as well? Are they going into a follow-up Dark Shrine? Or are they going up to a follow-up Adept Immortal attack? That's a big question that is certainly on soO's mind now, because it does seem like he's not going to take a lot of damage from the initial Adepts. His army is building. He's got no Adepts near his mineral line. You know, it even kind of maybe looks like they could be just holding on to their lives to pair up with Immortals, something that these Lings would love to be scouting, trying to get through the natural. Stalker is going to hold the line enough for buildings to be created. Clearly a 2-base dedicated attack, by the way, if I wasn't clear on that. 2 bases. 2 bases. Dark Shrine is going to finish. Do we have Spore Crawlers? I'm not seeing any. That's a big problem. soO might have recognized that he was a little low on the drones and then tried to, decided to take the chance and skip Spores. Usually you'd see 1. That helps against the Warp Prism to a certain extent, actually, but obviously is also there in case it ends up being DTs. We do not have that in this game. We do not have any spores. And now they build very quickly, so I think maybe the base, like 1 or 2 bases could be saved, obviously, but this is just terrible. Zerg player having no idea DTs are here. This gets a little weird. The Adepts overeager to pair up with the DTs. You get surrounded, but yeah, even though the DTs kind of got revealed to an extent, they still got in the natural. Third base is going to be protected. Now the main. Well, only 2 turns have gone down. Did MaxPax flip this a little bit? I think so. I mean, it's so rare for DTs to actually end the game nowadays, right? So I think what happened was that MaxPax, like, he was almost too clever for his own good. Oh, the Spore Crawler is going to go down! The lair is about to finish, but there is no detection. The dive on the Spore Crawler is going to work wonders, and if MaxPax was missing damage done, he certainly isn't now. A bunch of queens go down, drones continue to miss mining, and he does still have the Archons, obviously, to pair up with the Warp Prism. But I think that was actually very much needed. Otherwise, it was kind of getting really weird. You know, the work count had evened up, which is fine on both sides. But then the Adepts didn't seem like they were very worth their lives, you know? They didn't trade out necessarily all that well. Because it seems like he maybe thought, okay, the DTs won't be a surprise in the bases, so I'm going to put all of them together and surprise him that way. Put all 4 DTs into the main army to swipe and take down the units. And sometimes that causes an overwhelming effect. When actually, if he had just warped in and then sent 1 DT to every mineral line, probably would have done more damage. And then had the Adepts as well. Yeah, it definitely could have been improved upon. In the heat of the moment, it is what it is. MaxPax had his own missed macro during all that micro. By the way, just want to make sure we're even on both sides here. He also at one point banked over 1,300 minerals, I think. A little more forgiving when you can be pumping out 6 stalkers. That's going to take a big chunk of change, but yeah, he did miss macro. Now it's time for soO to do so again, though, and that is far more concerning, because MaxPax is basically made up for that at part. He's gotten his base, he's gotten his probes, he's gotten his SimCity, he's gotten his gateways. soO has not made up for any of the non-droning he had to do for any of the drones that were killed and making up for that, right? Like, he doesn't have a 4th base. He doesn't have a lot of queens. He doesn't have his injects again. He doesn't have the larva. Doesn't have an upgrade. Like, it's just everything missing. Everything is missing. soO is going to get absolutely bodied in this series. MaxPax is back on his strength here. Blink Stalkers. A couple of Archons added in as well. Getting a 4th base behind this with absolutely no opposition. He will be a base ahead. As his 4th Nexus is faster than soO's 4th hatchery. soO missing some of the foundation, right? Whether it's the drone count before making the army, sometimes because he didn't macro as well as he could, and sometimes because he just didn't defend. He loses 18 drones to an Oracle. Then, during some of the action-packed sequences, again, doesn't have the larva. So anytime that there could be a bust out, again, that time in which they finally do have the larva pop and they finally spend all this money and then they do get a bit of a counterattack going, it's not happening. It's not happening. He still has 1,500 minutes exactly like last game. He just does not have enough on the field. Especially now as he's being attacked in multiple locations. Ay, ay, ay. Bit of a slaughter going on here. MaxPax lets his harassing units do a lot of the talking. The Adepts killed so many drones. The Archon and the Warp Prism, so many drones. soO on 4 bases, but only 44 drones. MaxPax 4, 75 probes, working his way up to Colossus. He's got that blink, he's got charge, he's got a Colossus already out, actually, and he is going for the killing blow. soO couldn't really get his feet under him in this series, is what it feels like. You know, there's, I guess, really important moments in soO versus Trap in which soO was allowed to breathe a little more, not get supply blocked, not get larva blocked, in which he was able to finally get that 4th base up and the injects popping to finally spend all that money. In this game, in this entire series, Never got that. MaxPax, absolutely relentless. Keeps soO under his thumb, doesn't let him play his game. And will dominate the North American Cup as much as he dominated the European Open Cup. His usual opposition, Clem, was not here today. But GG's. Hope you enjoyed the PvZ. Alright, guys. That is it. It's another 3-0. Woo. Short and sweet.